My name's Ian Hamilton. I'm the Managing Director of Alkaway, and I'm going to talk to you about my Alzheimer's, or where my Alzheimer's is today. Around about 6 months ago, it was becoming increasingly obvious to me that I had a problem, and it was a big one. I was forgetting names, I was forgetting common words in the middle of a sentence. I would go to the supermarket to get a short list of things and I'd forget what I went for and inevitably come back with the wrong thing, which caused all sorts of troubles. My father had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's shortly before his death, and it was a very painful situation for him and for his family. And I have to say that there can be a lot of denial around this, and the easy way in the early stages is denial and think, well, I'm just going to get over it. But the inevitable result of denial is depression. And now I know in retrospect that depression is one of the accelerators of Alzheimer's. So I was at that point. Luckily for me, Cassie, my beautiful wife, is also a fabulous medical researcher. So I'll let Cassie tell the story.
Well, yeah, I mean, the really important part here, I think, is that nobody wanted to mention what was actually happening, that Ian was seeming to be, well, more and more forgetful, and it was, for me, quite a concern, and I didn't want to mention it because you don't want to mention things like that, especially when there is no medical cure or even help for dementia or Alzheimer's. So what will be the point of mentioning it except that we could feel bad about it, or even worse. But on the other hand, because we have a very honest relationship, we did bring it up, and thank goodness we did, because we started talking about what we could possibly do, and I thought, well, you know, there's amazing things on the internet, and I'll start researching and see if I can find anything, because loads of things have come up, and many different things I could have taken notice of. One of them was niacin, and he is taking niacin, but not in the huge quantities that he has been told to take. But the other thing that he's taking that's really changed, because in a matter of a few days, that's the bird on a chime, notice in a few days when he started taking coconut oil was the big change he had, especially the one thing that was starting to really be noticeable, and that was depression. And everybody knows that depression makes dementia or Alzheimer's progress at a much faster rate. And Ian's depression lifted. It was just quite amazing how fast it lifted. Now, I know that's to do something with hope, but I think that it was
it was so fast.
Quite evident that
within a week.
Yes, that the coconut oil was actually starting to feed his brain with its MCT oil. And so
MCTs,
being medium chain triglycerides.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really started to lift, and his memory got less better, and that was just so fantastic, because I was so scared that I would be left with somebody who
the vegetable
couldn't even remember me.
Well, it could be handy if it was the night after, but I work very hard. I have a very active brain. I love my brain because it's highly creative, and it would have been beyond thought that I couldn't use my brain, and that was why I was depressed. Maybe I'm dependent on my brain for being who I am. I don't need to go there because I don't think it matters. Everybody would be bereft in losing their brain. The man with no brain. But I can say I am as sharp as I've ever been. I think things out. I still have my creative ability. It still works overtime, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it was almost like clicking back into place. It happened that fast. It's not hard. I know some people have problems with coconut oil, you know, a reaching effect, and sure, if I take a tablespoon of coconut oil and stick it in my mouth, it's pretty hard to get down. It's oil after all. But the way I take 2 tablespoonfuls, usually I just dollop it in so it's a bit more than that, with kefir, which is our home brewed yogurt ferment. We get it because we go to the local dairy for our milk, and we have the unpasteurised milk. We make the kefir, and I mix the kefir with the coconut oil and either green supplement or blueberries, and it's actually very nice. It's great. Mix it up, and it's just like a smoothie.
Yeah, and the other thing is we cook everything pretty well with coconut oil, because it doesn't get damaged with heat like every other oil. I mean, even olive oil will get damaged with heat. So,
and it's a saturated fat, but it's a good saturated fat despite all of the propaganda.
And we've both had 2 tests since we started taking the coconut oil, and our cholesterol ratios are getting better and better. Our triglycerides are going down. So there is no need to worry about the terrible idea that your cholesterol is going to go up. It's just a myth. It's not a reality for us. And yeah, when I found this information out from Dr. Mary Newport on the internet, I was just amazed at
that was an amazing story,
what happened to her husband when she started putting him firstly on coconut oil, then on coconut oil and medium chain triglycerides at the same time. And he takes 3 tablespoons 3 times a day, and she notices that it does start to wear off after a period of time, and he's ready to have, well, actually she's done the tests and she knows that it's wearing off, and so he needs to have it 3 times a day. He has improved to the point where he couldn't originally...
Well, just tell them where he was.
Yeah, he couldn't... The tests that showed, when he did a drawing of a clock, you couldn't even realise it was a clock. You wouldn't know what it was. And now he can read again. The words don't jump around on the page anymore. He can actually join in conversations and maintain social contact long enough. So,
as she said, I got my husband back.
Yeah, I got my husband back, yeah. And he can do tasks for longer than an hour. He gets onto his... mower, and he can mow the lawn. He wants to get back to the point where he can actually get paid for a job. He's volunteering at the moment, but he hasn't been able to get there yet. In 3 years, he hasn't deteriorated at all, and this is since he's been on the coconut oil, and he has improved. So he was a bad case, and Ian wasn't anywhere near that, but thank God, because we've nipped it at the right moment.
I think that's the thing. It appears from what we can see that if you start, I mean, I was at that incipient stage, recognisable, but I got back to normal. If I'd have done it in a year, I wonder, because Dr. Newport's husband hasn't gotten fully back. He's gotten much better, but he hasn't regained everything. So I would just recommend to anybody who is even, you're getting a bad memory, get on coconut oil. Yes. It's just like that, because we don't know what the bad memory is, but it appears that we saw a wonderful documentary on Alzheimer's the other night, and it appears it can come in a rush, in a matter of 3 weeks.
Especially
you can be
with depression.
With depression as well, yes.
Depression really helps it getting worse,
So.
And it's not just for Alzheimer's, it's for dementia. And Dr. Mary Newport has had a lot of feedback from people, and they've said it has an effect on all sorts of things that you wouldn't even imagine. So,
well, we know that, don't we? Because we've used it for cooking everything for a couple of years now, and we love it. Absolutely love it.
Yes, but when you have something like dementia or Alzheimer's, you do need to have large quantities in order to get those medium chain triglycerides into you.
Yes. So, if this applies to you, you've seen the video. If it doesn't apply to you, but you know someone, pass it on. Please pass this on. This is such important information. We're blessed to have it. So please, we forget to do things on the internet. I know it might be internet Alzheimer's, but pass it on. This is amazing stuff. And we're putting a link on the video, and here it is. If you click on that, you'll have Dr. Mary Newport's address and information about coconut oil. What can I say? I'm utterly blessed with every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to people like Dr. Mary Newport who've actually put their blog up and gone through and done all this with her husband, which is just fantastic. I'm very grateful to her.
Thank you, Dr. Mary, and thanks for watching.